Okay, I'll try not to.
It wouldn't be our first video we had pulled, so.
Wow.
Yeah, we still don't know why.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's real awesome.
I hear that.
Fucking sweet. Cool. All right.
We think we know why.
I really don't know why.
I'm pretty sure it was the production company who made that movie.
Because they didn't like that we didn't love their movie?
And I don't think we were particularly insulting.
No. This is fucking America.
What movie was it?
Christmas Horror Story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not
I don't think I made it through that one.
If it wasn't for doing this show, there's a lot of movies I never would have made it through.
That's true.
I don't think... Have I ever not finished a movie for this podcast, Corey? I ask you because I drink away all the bad times.
Never made it to the full end of a movie.
As soon as those credits start, I'm checking out.
Sometimes before.
Fuck you. All right. Do you have any questions? Otherwise, I'll start recording the audio and then do the actual podcast portion of this shit show.
I guess, do you guys have a sort of format of any kind, or is it just...
I never sent you the doc. I'm sorry.
I got the doc, and it seemed pretty self-explanatory. I just didn't know if there's anything else, so you just kind of chat.
Yeah, we just kind of go through it, and like I said, it's super duper relaxed.
We will screw it up.
It will fuck it up.
All right. Sounds good.
And it's Ariel?
Ariel's fine. Ariel, either way.
Right. Well, which do you prefer?
I have no preference, honestly.
All right. I just don't want to offend you. I like to call Corey Boo Boo Kitty Fuck sometimes.
You can call me that if you want.
We just met. We don't need to cross that bridge just yet.
Okay, I might need something a little bit more unique, though.
Give me some time. I'll think of one.
Yeah, we want to tailor it to you. We don't want to just come up with something and assign it to you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it may happen halfway through the show, but I'll get you a name.
Okay.
All right. Are you guys both ready?
Yeah.
Cool. You know I'm never going to say yes to that.
Shut up, Corey. Guess who's back with a big fucking dick for that motherfucking mouth? I've been waiting 3 days to quote some Snoop Dogg on our big return, and I fucked it up. Guess who's back in the motherfucking house with a big fat dick for that motherfucking mouth? There we go. This is episode 101 of the Podcast of Terror. I'm your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey. It's small, but I work with it, Scott. Corey, how are you?
It's true. Like my rap tunes, I keep it short, I keep it quick, and I keep it really sloppy.
I tell your wife I'm sorry.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's as you heard, a female voice. We don't have females on this show very often, so I make
not
sure
often enough.
Pull out all of the dick references when we do have them to make them incredibly uncomfortable. Set the bar low, and then when you're a little higher than the bar, then you've done well. Our guest this week is the host of Murder Under the Midnight Sun podcast, and she's our new friend, Ariel Jayne. How are you?
Hey guys. Doing pretty good. I actually just finished the movie like less than an hour ago, so I'm in the zone.
My Sunday morning ritual is to drink a lot of coffee and watch whatever movie I've been assigned. So
that's a good ritual.
I had to watch it in 2 sittings. I started this movie. I was really happy that you mentioned this as being one of your movies. And since we never even said what it was, I should probably mention it's Chopping Mall.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I was up in Door County, which is the thumb of Wisconsin, if you're unfamiliar, getting incredibly drunk with some high school friends. And we brought the 10 worst horror movies of all time, and Chopping Mall was one of them. And we got about halfway through before I got so drunk I didn't know what my name was, so I had to finish it.
By the way, I didn't know Wisconsin had a thumb, seeing as how I'm originally from Michigan. Do you keep the thumb in Ohio's ass? What is the?
No, we stay far away from Ohio because Ohio is a shit show.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I'm going to like 2 times in the next 6 months. But
they have Cedar Point.
I don't like roller coasters.
The world can't be that bad if you got Cedar Point.
I don't know. I dated a girl who liked roller coasters a lot, and she would like hike her knees up so when they brought the bar down, it would rattle while she jumped.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I'm like, fucking whatever. And then she clogged my parents' toilet and overflowed shit all over the place. But
always living on the edge.
Oh my god, that took a dark turn.
Yeah. I can't really say her name or her nickname in case she listens to this, but I doubt she does. But if she does, she knows. She knows.
Otherwise, she just thinks she's one of 20 different girls who clog your parents' toilet.
My parents had poor plumbing. It
sounds like she has poor plumbing.
She was. Yeah, that was.
It sounds like you have a particular type.
Yeah. Whoa. Only one girl I have dated has such a meaty shit that it clogged and overflowed a toilet. And that was long before I met my wife. It's not my wife either. Anyways,
okay, well.
Yeah.
Did you put that out there?
Yeah. No, it's not my wife. She's not a toilet overflower.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't even know how to podcast anymore. It's been like 2 months. But we're on this podcast, including show notes, content information, subscription links. Go to gncast.com/pot. You can chat with us on our Slack channel during our shows at gncast.com/signup. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter that we have as well. Ariel, why don't you talk about your show? I am a fan because I love true crime, but for the 8 people that listen to our show that aren't familiar, why don't you go ahead and talk all about it?
Well, I live in Alaska, born and raised. I've lived here 30-ish years, and I decided to do a true crime podcast because, it's one of my biggest interests. And I chose to focus on Alaskan crimes because a lot of them are pretty fucked up and never really got the national media attention that did. So I cover a lot of stories that no one's ever heard of, but are crazy. There's a couple I've covered where it's 1/3 of a tiny town's population is murdered in one day. So there's a lot of really weird crimes that have happened up here. And I like crime pods that are cases I've never heard of. So that's kind of what I aim to do. And so far, I think I've only had one overlap with other podcasts. So
nice. And where can the nice people find you?
You can find me on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, pretty much anywhere fine podcasts are sold. I'm on Facebook. I've got a page under the Midnight Sun, and I'm on Twitter at Murder the Sun, and I'm probably most active on Twitter if you're into that sort of thing.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming. Hey, we've been trying to set this up for a while, but I hit podcasting menopause, and I needed a break.
I hear that.
Yeah, it happens once in a while.
That was going through the change, and the change was doing this goddamn show every week.
Well, so a couple days ago, Corey and I reconnected. I bought a new computer, so I had to make sure my shit worked. And this weekend was the first weekend I've been home since the middle of August, and it sucks. So it's I didn't really get a break at all. But
gotcha.
My liver also did not get a break.
I was going to say, because you stopped drinking as soon as you stopped podcasting, right? You took the couple of months off and drank. Nope, you just strictly, I would assume, Lipton iced tea. But
I came home from Kansas with 3 cases of beer. And then I was in Door County drinking. One of my coworkers actually had to question what I was doing because my Untapped was updating so quickly. He wasn't sure what I was doing.
Is it social media or is it a cry for help?
It's both. It's both. I do want to mention that Alaska is home to one of my favorite beers of all time.
What's that?
It is Midnight Sun Brewing's Treat. It's their chocolate pumpkin porter.
Yeah, they have a lot of awesome beers. They're, obviously hometown favorite. Mm-hmm. And we actually have, pretty decent local breweries, but I think that they're probably the most popular by far. So they have a lot of great beers.
I need to get up there. I have some asshole that I know through work goes up there to watch hockey every year, so I make him bring me back a couple bottles of Treat. I hope he's not listening.
Hockey?
Yeah, he went to Northwestern University, which is in the UP of Michigan, and they like it enough that they go to Alaska to watch hockey. Yeah. Yeah, right? That's about how I feel.
Weird.
Anyway. a fucking weird guy. He's a network engineer. They're all weird.
Yeah,
But,
that's true.
Yeah, very true. So, before we go ahead and get into the movie, so okay, we should also mention technically this is season 2. We did what worst episode ever did, which is literally where we steal everything from. We did 100 episodes season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Took a little break, and now we're going back for season 2. So season 2, we're making some changes. We're going to kind of get rid of the news, just to make the episodes a little more timeless.
Okay.
It's really fucking difficult to try and find news every week, and if we miss a week because I have diarrhea or something, we have to like find all news stories. So we're getting rid of that. But before we get into the shopping mall discussion, hey Corey, what you drinking?
I am back to my Lipton iced tea, which I never left. I can't. It's
boring.
It's the only thing that keeps me alive. I have so little.
You got a sweet ass though. Ariel, are you drinking anything? I tried to warn you. It's like
not even. What time is it? It's like not even 5 o'clock here yet. So I've got 5 minutes. So maybe
in 5 minutes you'll get something.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. I think it was 12:30 when I had my first beer yesterday, but
that's fine.
We've recorded the show early in the morning for me, and you're only 2 hours ahead of me, Matt. So I know that you've had beers at 10 a.m.
Well, you can't drink all day if you don't start before noon.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, I like beer. I did a bunch of yard work yesterday. It was warm-ish here. Had to have beer and play video games. Fuck you guys. So in 5 minutes, we'll circle back, and you better be drinking something. If we need to take a break so you can get a beverage, that's fine. But it is today. It's the day we're recording this is October 1st. So when this comes out, it'll be the 3rd on Tuesday.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Did you just say happy birthday, Dad?
Yeah, it's my dad's.
It's your dad's birthday?
Yeah.
Is it it's not the one that hates us, right? Thinks I swear too much?
No, that's my stepfather who thinks Jack swears too much.
Yeah, Jack's probably right. Potty mouth fuck. So I have some special white girl beers because it's October. It's white girl season. I'm
offended by this.
No, don't be. Don't be. I probably
Who
consume
doesn't like
more
white
pumpkin
girls?
than most white girls.
Go back to Snoop Dogg if we're talking. Like,
I don't like it at all.
You really don't?
Not at all. I actually don't really drink coffee, so.
Oh, see, I had pumpkin Cheerios. I made pumpkin bread pudding, pumpkin beer, pumpkin pie, pumpkin bars, pumpkin cookies, pumpkin Twinkies, pumpkin donuts. Yeah.
That's a lot of pumpkin.
Yeah, if I ever ask why I'm fat, just reference this conversation. Be like, it's all those pumpkin snacks you're putting in your fucking pie hole.
It's weird that you like so much pumpkin when you're so out of your gourd.
Oh, Jesus. So I'm drinking funkier pumpkin from Boulevard in Kansas City. It was one of my groomsmen's gifts for being in a wedding last weekend. And backup, I got this pumpkin stout that's going to go in my mouth hole here pretty quick. All right. Now that I'm properly lubed, let's talk about Shopping Mall.
Okay. So I have to ask, you really think it's in like the top 10? It's
pretty bad. I mean, the internet told me it was in the top 10 worst movies ever. It's not. Okay. I mean, there's with all movies, there's like kind of, you have to give an explanation. It's not a good movie, but it is an entertaining movie. It's not scary. It's super fucking easy, but it's entertaining, and that's what I want. I want entertainment. There was some real 80s moments which I kind of laughed at, like
it was
the whole everyone's fucking in the furniture store.
I know.
My favorite line of the whole movie was "Call me the king," and then the weird kid just goes, "Furniture king."
Yeah.
I laughed a lot.
I kind of feel like people that put that in like the top 10 worst horror movies have neither heard of Trauma nor seen a Trauma movie, because those are, many of them, I mean, you just can't make it through because they're so dumb and not even remotely entertaining.
Yeah, and this is the 80s when like even crap movies wound up getting a soundtrack put out on a record label. They put effort into this stuff, even if it wasn't the greatest film in the world. And this film wasn't very successful in the theaters. In fact, I think it might have come out with one name, and then they changed the name later on from Killbots to Chopping
Wow.
Mall.
Yep.
Based on the suggestion from a janitor at the mall that they shot at, which was also used for Fast Times at Richmond High. But the movie found big success on VHS and on cable, which at that point in time, this is 86 of this came out. It was still kind of a new thing for a film to get that kind of following after it failed in the theaters. And it's not like it was made on a big budget or anything. It was an early film for the guy who made it. I think he wrote the script with the agreement that he would get to direct it. And it was suggested by Roger Corman's wife, who was also a filmmaker and producer. And so Corman was a kind of consultant for the film. And for the first few days, they were just like, we just want to make this so that Roger will be proud of it. And Roger came in and he's like, I really love what you guys are doing, so continue on. I liken this to RoboCop. In fact, you can call it Robo Mall Cop. I wish that there was a sequel with Paul Blart. That's what I'm waiting for. But it's got a lot of the same kind of sensibilities. There's some silliness. The whole opening scene of them shooting the mall just feels like they put a lot of effort into showing what mall culture was like. The girl walking with the drink and everybody coming by her and her like trying not to spill them and winding up spilling on everybody. The very, very opening with them introducing the Killbots as the new security guards for the mall and everything felt straight out of RoboCop as well. Like, here's us advertising to you this new product that we're selling you. And my wife just saw RoboCop for the first time this week. And she's like, yeah, I just never watched it because it looks stupid. And then she comes into the room an hour later. She goes, why has no one told me that RoboCop is the greatest fucking movie of all time? I'm like, because everybody just assumed that you've seen RoboCop. I think that this movie is great. So I love, and this is another one. When I said I was reviewing a Chopping Mall this week, she goes, that is a great ass movie. But there's things in this like that are just for the in the know people. Like there's two actors, Paul Bartel and Mary Warrenoff, who play Paul Bland and Mary Bland, who are characters from Eating Raoul.
Yeah, I was actually looking into all the actors and actresses too. I saw that,
and
it was like a weird little nod, like
and they improvised the whole interaction. They're talking about the restaurant. Yeah, and Dick Miller, who a lot of people recognize from a lot of things, but from the Gremlins movies, he plays Walter Paisley, who is a character he played it. Yeah, he played Walter Paisley in Bucket of Blood, which I just saw recently on the Saturday Night Horror Movie Creature Features out here, which is about a guy who works at a beatnik club that winds up accidentally covering a cat with sculpting clay and then selling it and becomes known as an artist, and then keeps killing people and covering them with sculpting clay like they're his statues that he's made, and just gets more and more popular doing it. So there's three characters that are from other horror-ish movies already. This is a complete tongue-in-cheek film that is a ton of fun. Plus, it's got a bunch of people from Night of the Comet, including Kelly Maroney, which is one of my favorite 80s movies. I love this flick.
Too. And I mean, watching it this time around with a more analytical vibe, I guess, I noticed so many more Easter eggs, and looking up each of the actors and actresses, I was like, holy shit, like, well, obviously Barbara Crampton, you know, Scream Queen.
Yeah.
But
Reanimator.
I did notice all the like Roger Corman connections. And I mean, the part where the douchebag, you know what I'm talking about, says Klaatu Vrata Niktu to the robot. I was like, oh my God, I never caught that before.
This is a horror movie that's made for people who love horror movies. In the middle 80s. The one caveat is that Chopping Mall makes no sense for the name.
I know. And the cover art, totally misleading. You're expecting somebody to get slashed, you know, probably with a knife, not lasers and exploding heads.
Yeah. Although that exploding head scene is just like, that's prime 80s beauty in horror films. That is a shot that everybody knows and loves.
Yes. I really remember seeing the cover when I was younger in a video store, which I do remember, and I miss them dearly. And I used to see this video there, and I was just like, man, I want to see that movie. It looks awesome based on the cover art. So I finally watched it when I was probably, I don't know, 29, and was like, this movie's completely different than I possibly expected.
Yeah, I guess having not read anything based on the name, kind of going back to what you guys said, is like I never would have expected it to be laser shooting robots.
Right.
Maybe like a crazed knife man.
Yeah, exactly.
And the robots are really well done for what you think is a low budget horror movie. They seem pretty solidly made. Now, in 1986, there was also another movie that I want to say, it's a Wes Craven film called Deadly Friend that had Christy Swanson in it.
Yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah,
but that's also got a very similarly done robot. So we're at a point in time where everything's trying to be short circuit, except taken to a horror level. We've had RoboCop at this point, so it's not unusual that you can see these things happening more and more. But they're still pretty good examples of making these things, because you see a lot of schlock of like, oh, the robot is this, and it's just like poorly claymation type animation for it and just looks like garbage. These things look really good. The designs were well done. Yeah. The director of the film actually did the voice for the Killbots, the one who's always saying "Thank you, have a nice day." That was the guy who made the movie. But I was pretty impressed overall with the quality of it. Even though there were ridiculous moments of them like going up the escalator, it's like, no, there's no way you're getting that thing up the escalator. But it looked okay. It looked believable just to watch it, unless you actually think about it, and you never want to think about these things.
I thought the effects really stood the test of time. You know, like getting the ripped out, like that looked pretty decent for, you know, a theoretically low budget 80s movie.
Yeah, and the kills weren't really high end. There wasn't a lot of variance. It was a couple of throat rips. The lasers, I don't know where the lasers came from. It's like, oh, these are totally non-lethal robots. They've got tasers, but suddenly they developed laser systems as well, and they're just shooting all over the place, like Battlestar. But it was overall, it all looked good. It looked easily as what you would expect from any kind of mid-range sci-fi movie at that point in time.
Yeah, I felt like it just really, really embodied the 80s. First time I watched it, I was like, that whole mall opening scene, I was like, this is like the most 80s thing I've ever seen. It was amazing. And it was just, some of the comedy was so ridiculous. Like everybody was like having trouble. People were just like tripping all over themselves throughout this mall. And I was like, I feel like this, you know, that was my first time watching it. I felt like I'd seen it before because it just felt like quintessentially 80s, for lack of a better description.
Yeah, as a kid who grew up in the 80s and not quite age equivalent to these guys, but certainly I reached their age before the 80s ended. I completely felt at home in this. And it helps that there's a familiarity because, again, this mall has been in other things. They wanted to get a different mall, but it was too expensive, so they wound up going with the one that they used. Like I said, that was in Fast Times, which Kelly Maroney was actually in.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I looked up everybody and seeing if any of them were still acting and that kind of thing. And I was like, okay. She was in Fast Times, and it is, now that you mention it, it's very noticeable that that's the same mall.
Yeah, but at the same time, all the malls kind of felt like they looked the same at that point. I was really geeked when I saw a Florsheim there, since I used to work at a strip mall that had a Florsheim. But it's totally right. It totally makes sense, and it feels like it's almost a commentary on consumerism at some points, which is exactly what it should do. It's not trying to be super serious. It is trying to be a comedic horror movie, but not as funny as some of the other ones. It's not Critters,
right?
But it's certainly not trying to be super dark either. It knows what it's doing.
Exactly. I felt that it tried hard to, hit the right notes with like the, little, I guess you would call them like taglines or whatever, but didn't quite work out. There were a few that stuck out, but I mean, especially like the ending, like have a nice day, I was like, man, they could have done so much better with that. A little disappointing.
It was like they were having a late night in the writer's room, and they're like, fuck it. Have a nice day.
We have to end this. There's got to be some sort of funny line she can say. Okay, how about just the robot's line? All right, let's go do some coke.
Yeah.
They could have at least, and I guess it would have had to do with expensive shooting somewhere else, but they could have at least made it seem like there were more of these robots at other malls. Right. Because that's the thing. It's like we've sold it to this place, and they all went crazy because lightning struck the same box 4 times to make the robots go crazy, even though they're not plugged into anything. It's just hitting this box up at the top, which
it's wireless charging, Corey. Get your shit together.
Okay, sure. Yeah, goddamn fucking 80s technology. Blown capacitor.
I just thought it was so funny how important the mall was. Like, obviously the mall was a huge thing in the 80s. The fucking office looks like NASA. Mm-hmm. And awesome like robot technology, and they're using it to patrol the mall instead of,
he's watching pornography.
Slightly more important.
No, he's watching a lot of pornography. We all know it.
But here's well, I mean, on what though? Because he would have had to actually have a VCR or something to watch it at that point.
He was just looking at the boobs.
Yeah, he was just looking at a centerfold that was in the middle of his how do I fix this crap? Oh, wait, here's tits.
Slowly downloading a picture with his 58.6 modem.
Yeah, that's a problem. Is you try to run that technology on a Commodore VIC-20.
I think you just dated yourself.
I dated this picture. But the amount of money that they would have spent for 3 of these robots and the technology to keep it up and the guy who's sitting there and supposed to be monitoring it all night, they could have hired 50 security guards and still paid half as much for the next 10 years of their salary when minimum wage was $4.25 at that point. It's kind of like, oh yeah, we got these things. And then the people are just like, oh, we should get these for the restaurant, for the customers that annoy us.
I know. And it's funny how it's like, they're totally foolproof. Nothing will go wrong. All you have to do is have your ID card with you. So if you don't have your ID card, you're just going to get tased.
Yep.
Do you think they were yelling, "Don't tase me, bro," in the 80s?
No.
No? Man.
That was when we wanted to get tased. We were like, let's see what this feels like. We didn't have Jackass yet. We couldn't see Bam Margera getting a taser on his ball sack. It was like, oh, I don't know. That looks cool.
How else do you know you're alive if you haven't been tased in the old beanbag? You don't. All right. I don't know why this is taking so long, Corey. You don't know.
I'm really not sure. According to certain tech industry highballs, I'm living in the Matrix. So fuck it.
Huh. I can't stop thinking about the fact that you just talked about balls again.
The show is back.
Yeah, right. It didn't take us that long. I've already spilt beer. I have no paper towel to wipe it up. I'm just now rubbing it into my skin.
This is good job.
Yeah, this is happening. I should put paper towels in here.
I am hand cream.
I am a fucking 30-year-old baby. Now my desk is sticky.
So speaking of 80s, aside from Kelly Maroney, who was a pretty popular screen queen in that time, Tony O'Dell played Ferdy in this. Tony O'Dell, the only thing I know him from besides this is Head of the Class. Mm-hmm. He was the preppy lead in that show.
I've never seen him in anything else other than this movie, but I don't know. I actually thought he was definitely the best looking out of all of the guys, even though he was supposed to be the nerd. And I mean, it was just so, I guess, cliche how the nerdy guy and this Kelly Maroney is supposed to be like this dorky chick are just like getting fixed up. And it's like kind of immediately showing you like, okay, this is going to be like the final guy and girl or the final girl.
Yeah. And they didn't quite do the totally innocent final girl. Like she has to be completely virginal. But they were making out in a room full of 3 of their friend couples banging. like 10 feet away.
Yeah,
it's
that
like,
was weird.
Oh man, like I don't. 1986, I was 15. I don't remember a lot of orgies. I'm sure that they existed. Yeah, but
I just want to let you know I was 1 year old in 1986.
Thank you. Now I'm just gonna.
Sorry, proceed with your orgy conversation.
Speaking of balls, he just shriveled up and crawled up inside of me. Thanks for that. But it was just like, I don't know, like, it didn't seem like any of the guys that had the girlfriends already weren't having sex somewhere. So the idea of like, we have to do it in the store all en masse seemed really bizarre. Yeah. It's like, this is the only way to get a clean bed.
Especially the married couple. Like, they seem like they were supposed to be a couple years older and they're married, but they're hanging out with characters that seem like they're 17 and also having sex at the mall for some reason.
Well, the age difference thing, I don't know if that was seen as that big of a deal in the 80s. It was a weird time. It was a different time.
I mean, have either of you ever gone shopping for a mattress?
Yeah.
This is going somewhere, trust me. So when you go to those stores, do you not lay on all the beds? Do you think
yes,
they wash
but I do not
sheets?
have sex on them.
No, but do you think they wash the sheets? So you're saying that they're having sex in a furniture store for a clean bed is bullshit, because those are fucking the dirtiest beds. They're probably worse than hotels.
That's like money. Yeah, and the first thing I do when I go into a hotel is I strip off that top blanket with my foot and I kick it across the room in the corner and I leave it there.
I get butt naked and I alligator roll and then I jizz everywhere.
Okay.
Matt just, instead of leaving a tip on the pillow when he leaves, Matt just leaves a portable black light. And he's like, enjoy.
just turn the lights off for maximum effect.
They don't even clean it. They just set the place on fire.
Because they were like teenagers, so there's nowhere else for them to go be.
That's what I assumed.
Together. That's why I was like, why is this married couple showing up to hang out with their teenaged friends and also having this like romantic seduction in a mall?
They're the weird ones. That's why.
I was also confused because they said they made some sort of comment about like, well, if the place is trash on Monday, we're all going to get fired. So it's Friday night. The place, it might be trash on Monday. It's a mall. They're open on the weekends. That's where most of their business is going to come in. So they're going to have to spend half the night cleaning up the place. It's not like they got all day Saturday and Sunday to go and fix everything up. And if they do plan on cleaning the sheets, where? In the mall fountain?
That's true. Yeah, that's I never really. I mean, sorry, I'm getting hung up on this whole clean sheet situation, but
it's a good thing to get hung up on.
Huh. I didn't even think that much about it, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's
like clean sheets. All right, I wash my sheets often.
There's not a reason not to, unless you just like to lie in your own stink and dead skin cells.
I wash my sheets too, but I think in like a killer robot movie, like my suspension of disbelief is already pretty up there, so I'm not really thinking about the logistics of the sheets.
Well, right there is automatically like, how do you fight off killer robots? So first of all, they go and they find automatic weapons at a gun store in the mall. Again, It's the 80s.
Yeah.
But in California. And second of all, did you think maybe just putting a blanket over them? Because
holy shit, it's like a fucking alligator. You cover its eyes and thinks it's dead.
They can't see that if they try to roll over it, they're just going to get all tangled up in it and shit. Then you just push them down the stairs. There's so many ways that they could have done this, but like, we're going to just shoot at them instead because they're completely encased in metal. And then we're going to run around with big fucking canisters of gasoline. Why do you have canisters of gasoline at the mall either?
That's what I was also wondering about. And it seemed like the level of intelligence of the robots was kind of back and forth a little, because at one point they seem totally sentient. Like one is like turns off and like hides behind a corner. And then later on, they're using these mannequins to pretend to be people so the robots shoot at them. So I just feel like the screenwriters weren't really as agents of the robots, because I don't know, maybe some were smarter than others.
The one guy who has deniability, like, no, I'm sorry, I was over here in the corner. I was shut down the whole time. They're the ones who killing the fucking kids and the janitor.
Yeah, and somehow they figured out how to like dynamite open that door when they're hiding behind it. How the hell did they do that?
The door opens inward towards the robot at one point. He's got no fucking hands to open it, and you don't see him move at all. It's just like the door just blows open like it's in Weird Science. I'm just, hey,
yeah.
What?
Well, they're also telepathic, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a lot of people
are telekinetic.
Aren't going to get this, but the robots. There was no Wi-Fi in the 80s, so how are these things communicating?
I don't know.
I don't think this movie ever expected 3 random internet assholes to talk about it 30 years later.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. So.
But that is us tearing it apart for the sake of tearing it apart for plausibility and everything.
Oh fuck yeah, that's what we're here for.
But that's
I thought
but we know how silly
it is.
In general. We know it's dumb.
Yeah, it's really a pretty decent movie, regardless. Like, even when you tear it apart, it's still making me laugh.
Yeah, it was entertaining. You kind of knew what was going to happen, but you still, you still want to see it happen, I guess. It's not a movie that put on and you're like, this is so dumb, I have to turn it off. Movie.
Yeah, this is you have to be in a mood for a nostalgic film to decide to watch it. But if you're already in that mode, you're going to get exactly what you want out of it. Which is a lot of 80s boobs.
Yeah, I don't think anyone sits down. No one's going to sit down and be like, we're going to watch Chopping Mall because this is going to make me think more about life.
True. Yes.
Yeah. No, you go into it expecting cheap fun.
Exactly.
Pretty much like hanging out with Corey.
Thank you.
cheap sexual fun.
Ooh. My dad would call it a beer and pretzels movie, which, sometimes you're just in the mood to completely turn your brain off and watch heads explode.
Yeah, there's absolutely no other reason to watch a lot of these 80s horror movies.
That's true.
Unless you just kind of want to shut off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like I said, one of my favorite movies from the 80s is Night of the Comet. I don't think I realized until I started watching this again, and it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. I don't think I realized that Kelly Maroney was in this. So seeing her made me very happy. And again, that this movie was kind of a follow-up to that one in a lot of ways. A lot of the same actors were in it. The people who played the Blands didn't actually play the Blands in Night of the Comet, but they were in it. And this would be a perfect pairing for me, is a night where I watched Night of the Comet and I'm like, well, after that, I've got to watch Chopping Mall.
Is Night of the Comet the one with the alien slugs?
No, that's Night of the Creeps, which is also a great movie and a favorite of mine. Night of the Comet is two sisters who basically they both survive Halley's Comet coming over, and it kills a bunch of humanity, but it also causes some people who live to have an infection that slowly turns them into zombie-esque type beings. They get more violent, and they just go around and start killing people until they eventually break down, either go completely crazy, or just die. And so it's them, and they meet up with, strangely enough, the guy from Eating Raoul, who was Chakotay in Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
But he's hanging out with them too, and it's just like them going around. It's a post-apocalyptic world, except it just happened. So overnight, it goes from the world is normal to almost everybody's dead, and they go and they get automatic weapons, and they fend off whoever's coming after them, and they're trying to survive this new world. Not sure if any of them actually have the infection too. It's a cute movie.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's great. It's been on my list for us to do for a while.
And it's going to stay there.
Yeah.
I just
Probably not as necessary to talk about now.
Every time someone talks about Night of the
know.
Comet, all I think about is Maniac Mansion.
Which is a great
What's
movie.
it called?
There was a Nintendo game called Maniac Mansion.
Which wasn't the sequel Day of the Tentacle or Night of the Tentacle?
Day of the Tentacle.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they're just...
That's a great
so in
game.
Maniac Mansion, you play like 3 people and you try and break into this mansion and figure out what the fuck is going on because a comet crashed there. They made a TV show out of it. The TV show was really bad.
I played that game on my Commodore 64.
You're so old.
I am really old.
I played it on Nintendo and then later on emulators on my computer. Day of the Tentacle just got re-released. I played through that again not that long ago.
Yeah, I think I've got it on my Steam wish list.
God damn it, Corey. You know what's going to happen is I'm going to get drunk and buy it for you.
You're a beautiful
That's how
man.
all these things happen.
That's why I keep Matt around and keep encouraging him to drink.
My basement looks like a fucking liquor store.
Matt, you want to do a podcast and then buy me pretty things?
Backstory for anyone that missed the episode. Corey and I were talking about Phantasmagoria, and I just went and bought it for him.
Nice.
It was like $5. It's not a big deal, but still, this is my life. I just bought like 2 pounds of beef jerky while you guys were talking.
Wow.
I'm the worst. Yeah, I'm not even kidding.
Okay, so speaking of Phantasmagoria, try to follow me here. Did you notice that the tall man from Phantasm was in
Angus
Chopping
Grimm.
Mall?
I was about to go to the same thing. Yeah, he plays her dad, and it's like he's got this presence of like, oh, obviously you're fucking my daughter, and obviously I want to kill and eat your face. But go ahead, honey, if it makes you happy, Daddy will let you stay here and fuck your boyfriend in the mall.
I know, and he also like kind of slut shamed his daughter because he said something like, "Oh, I'm sure you will do everything for him," or something like that. I was like, "That's kind of rude."
Yeah, not pleasant interaction with it, but it seemed like it was there for no other reason than to have Angus Grimm in there because it had no payoff.
Yeah.
He had nothing to do with the movie after that scene.
I know you definitely expect him to come back in some way, but I think he just has a face that's like made to be a villain, so they just wanted to like put him in there as another little like nod and wink for people that know who that is.
And I instantly recognized him. I'm like, holy shit, that's great. But potentially because I thought that maybe he would have more to do with it. At the same time, yeah, it's one of those things that if you have a movie that has all the in jokes, if you have a movie that has all these different horror staples, actors and actresses, I guess the kid who played the mute in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, Joey, he was in this in a cut scene. He was a shoplifter at the mall, but it never made it into the film. But it was his first film that he was ever in. So it's kind of too bad that he didn't get to actually stay in the footage. But yeah, there's so many things about that it's like, sure, I absolutely want to have these moments. I want to have more people be a part of this. It's cool now when we see it because it's like a throwback. It's all the nostalgia thing. But this was nostalgia in 1986. There wasn't a lot of that then. It wasn't something that we utilized or expected. So to kind of celebrate itself by including all of these different aspects, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they were going for something, and probably in a way it fell flat for people that weren't in the know. Because, like, I know the first time I saw it and, like, the Blands in the very beginning, I'm like, what is with this random couple that's making these really stupid comments? But then when I, looked them up, I was like, oh, okay, they're, like, known entities. The chick was like part of like the Warhol factory scene, and they had just been in a movie like eating Raoul together. But if you don't know that, you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
And that's just I watched Eating Raoul on cable in the 80s quite a bit. It was a weird ass movie. I don't know why I was so drawn to it, but it was one of those things that went on midnight on Showtime or whatever.
You probably thought it was a porno.
It was very strange. It was a lot of they wind up, they're a very proper couple who sleep in separate beds, and the wife keeps getting attacked by people in their apartment building because all these swinger parties happen there. So they kill the first guy who comes in there and tries to sexually molest her, the husband kills him, and then they realize, oh, well, we stole this money out of this guy's wallet because he's rich as a swinger. We could just keep killing people and taking their money, and it'll help us save our business that's going out. And it's a weird ass film, but it's one of those things that was kind of like a staple of in the 80s. I saw this, I'm like, wow, okay, that's stuck in my brain now for the rest of my life.
I recognize the name, but I have never seen it. And I remember hearing the name when I was a lot younger, and it does not give any indication of what that movie could possibly be about. And when I read the description, I was just like, that does not really connect for me, but I kind of want to see it because it sounds super weird.
It is a one of a kind film, and that's exactly why you'd see it. It's a classic weird one, and like you said, it stars an actress who was known for being in Andy Warhol stuff, and Paul Bartel, who started in it and made it. Again, these people, they did a lot of stuff together post that movie, and even before that movie, they were in Death Race 2020 together. So it's kind of like when you see Robert Englund show up and stuff, even though he's not playing Freddy Krueger, and you're just like, well, it's a horror movie, and who can we get? Well, let's see if we can get Robert Englund, because he doesn't say no to anything. And nobody complained.
He'll probably do it too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, sure as shit we'll have Robert Englund in this. And everybody will be happy that he's there.
Speaking of which, exactly. He's down for anything. I saw there's an upcoming movie. I cannot remember what it's called right now, but it has Robert Englund. It has Gunnar Hansen.
It's Death House. It's the fucking.
So it's called.
I think it's called Death House. Corey, back me up.
Like the list was all like, different people that had played like
Danielle Harris,
and I was like, huh?
I think Danielle Harris is in it. There's two.
I think so. It was just like this list of people that is like kind of like a horror nerd's wet dream, and it was kind of bizarre to me that it's coming out now, as opposed to like 10 years ago. But I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Gunnar Hansen is actually one of the writers on it. Adrienne Barbeau is in it. Dee Wallace, Sid Haig.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Robert Englund isn't listed as being in that movie, but Death House does have Dee Wallace, Sid Haig, Kane Hodder, Bill Moseley. Yep. Yeah, there's just it's
okay.
Barbara Crampton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe in my head I just cast him in it because he should be in it.
I agree. I agree. He's the only one that's missing.
We should write him a letter.
A strongly worded letter.
Yes.
Why were you not there? It's like,
you have to be in this movie, obviously.
This weekend, be like, I have to spend some time with the kids. Just shut up. Let me have this.
I love seeing the fact that some of these actors are still acting. One of the chicks, not Barbara Crampton, but the other blonde. Huh?
Dee Wallace?
No, from Chopping Mall.
Oh, from Chopping Mall. Okay.
Sorry, that was like, you're not psychic. The other blonde from Chopping Mall was just in House of the Devil.
Susie Slater?
Oh, I never saw it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, are you serious?
Do you know how many fucking movies I have that I want to see? It's on my list. It's just.
It is so fucking good. You know how there's like this whole captcha? When you watch House of the Devil, you actually feel like you're just watching a movie that was made in like 1984. It's so fucking good.
Huh.
Oh, sorry. Barry Warrenoff was in House of the Devil.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, no, it's an amazing movie. It's probably in the top 5 of horror movies for me from the past 10 or 15 years.
Growly in the chat said that Dee Wallace was the MILF of the 80s. I think she really
said that?
Our YouTube chat, our buddy Growly Bear, he hangs out it's Monday morning for him.
Oh, okay.
Don't remember what country he's in. I'm waiting patiently for him to answer that question. But yeah, he spends his Monday mornings listening to Corey and I talk about dicks and jizz.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. Well, she was definitely like a bit of a scream queen, but like kind of older than the average scream queen, or at least, you know, was portraying older characters. But yeah, she was pretty hot.
Yeah, she was playing moms in things like Cujo, and
yeah,
there was never a point where Dee Wallace wasn't. It's kind of like seeing Patrick Stewart back in movies in the 70s. He still looks just like Patrick Stewart of today. He's still bald and looks kind of crinkly, but it doesn't matter because it's Patrick Stewart and he's awesome.
Exactly. Like they look like they were born 35.
To circle back, our old pal Growly's in Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah, so like 1/8 of our listeners are in a different country. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Because, you know, eight people listen. He's one. See what I did there? Made fun of us.
I tracked that.
Just,
thanks for explaining it, though.
Yeah, it's less funny when you have to explain it, even though I didn't have to.
True.
House of the Devil is no longer on Netflix.
Oh, man. It might be on Amazon Prime.
It is on absolutely nothing right now. Not available for streaming, rental, or purchase.
Those dicks.
I'll get my hands on it. You don't worry.
It's so good. Ugh.
I know.
I haven't talked it up too much, but it's so good. It's I think a lot of the problem with people trying to like capitalize on the 80s nostalgia is that they're too self-aware and it's too like tongue-in-cheek. This is not like that at all. It's like watching an 80s satanic panic movie that is not self-aware at all. It's amazing.
Yeah, we did a review of The Void not too long ago, and it's got a lot of aesthetics of 80s movies. There's some other one that I caught my wife watching, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it had, like, I think they found a VHS tape, and it was
Backdoor Sluts 9?
Beyond the Gates?
Beyond the Gates, that's right.
I have not seen that, but I just read a description of it, like, while I was watching Chopping Mall.
Nice.
Like there was some over. There might be an actor from that movie in Beyond the Gates, but I've heard that that's a really good movie.
It looked good what I saw of her watching it, but I tried not to pay attention because we were on our break, and I'm also trying not to actively ruin too many horror movies for myself by watching them before we see them for the show.
I liked The Void, but I didn't like it as much as I kind of wanted to. It kind of felt like it was trying to be The Thing too much. And then it kind of turned into like Hellraiser. So it was like this weird amalgamation of like a couple different horror genres. I don't know. It was definitely interesting, but
you're right. The journey definitely takes it from what you think it's going to be one movie, and then all the cult stuff and everything else, to this other movie. But certainly when it got to the Hellraiser portions of it, that's when I knew I loved it. Because I'm a Hellraiser guy.
I don't know. I wanted to love it. But if you're going to
steal from anything, stealing from John Carpenter's The Thing and from Clive Barker, that's a pretty good thing to aim for.
That's very true. And The Thing is like probably like my all-time favorite movie. So that's why it was like extremely obvious to me, but probably a more modern viewer who hadn't seen that would probably just think it's a really great horror movie.
Right. Yeah, and that's another part of doing a show like this, and why it was good that we took a break, is because you can become a little bit jaded to horror movies when you watch them continuously, and trying to feel like there's still any originality left, trying to feel that there's still stuff that can actually scare you. It becomes a little bit like every week is a cliche of some sort because you've seen it all before.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's been a really good resurgence in the last like 10 years. I think that after Scream came out, there was just so many that were trying to be that same kind of feeling. And there were so many just terrible movies between, 1997 to like, but I've noticed that there's a lot of newer directors out there that are really doing some super unique stuff. And it's been really exciting to actually stump movies. And holy shit, I've never seen this before. Like, for example, Deathgasm. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
When I just happened to stumble upon it, I'm like, this looks ridiculous. But I was like, oh my God, it blew my mind how it was so fucking unique, but also had, you know, aspects you can identify with from like zombie movies and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it might be one of the highest ranked movies on our list of things that we reviewed, because we were absolutely in love with it.
I love it so much. I watched it, and then the next day I was like, I made my dad watch it with me, and he loved it too. But I had forgotten the whole like dildo fight scene.
Yes.
So the dad and I was like, I forgot about this part.
Yeah, off the top of my head, the only thing I think that might beat it out in the scores is Xanadu, of course, because Xanadu. But it certainly was up there. Xanadu is the scariest movie ever made.
I've never seen it. I have no interest in it.
Oh, you're totally missing out, but it will own your soul.
Matt
and I, before the show, were talking about how we saw the new It while we were on break. And It, I think, is both a completely recognizable for everything that it's come before it film. Obviously, it's a remake, which itself is based off a book from the 70s. So a lot of things have emulated it for years.
Right.
But I can see how Hollywood is now going to want to try to make more stuff like it. And It itself came around at a time when people were already looking at Stranger Things and thinking how good Stranger Things is, which has a lot that it owes to it. But I look at it and I think the problem isn't going to be that everybody wants to copy this. It's that they're going to copy the wrong things. Because why It is so good is because of the writing and the character work more than anything else. The way that those kids are and how they interact, I think, is the selling point of this movie for me, above all the really cool stuff with Pennywise, which is all good, but isn't really doing anything new. And for a lot of horror people, isn't even considered that scary. What I always try to say to people is like, it's not a horror movie in the sense of like trying to scare adults. It's trying to scare the kids at a level the kids would be scared by these things. And how they will change that to the adults is going to be the make or break for the second portion of the film. But I loved the way that those kids acted with each other and on their own and everything. And I think that for me is why that movie is so good. And I want to see anybody who does try to emulate it, copy that portion of it, not just, oh, well, kids are afraid of clowns. That's what our hook is. That's what people want right now. That's because the most successful horror movie ever made now is a movie about kids being scared by a clown. It's really not what it is.
You know, it's so funny you say that because I got interviewed yesterday for the Unfound podcast. And at the very end, we just randomly started talking about horror movies. And we were talking about that movie. And I was saying that it left me feeling deliriously happy in a weird way because of how organic the kid characters were and how realistic their dialogue and, you know, just everything about it really, like, it was like all the bad parts of the made-for-TV movie were fixed. And, like, the casting was, like, basically spot on. And after I saw it, I was, like, I actually had, like, chills because of how good it was. And I was talking to friends about it, and I said, I didn't really like the portrayal of Pennywise, but I just fucking love the movie. And they were like, how can you like not really like the villain but like the movie? And I was like, well, it's because the villain portion of the movie was like actually like the least important, you know?
Yep.
I don't know why I didn't love the portrayal, but I would expect for that to have ruined the movie for me, but it didn't affect the quality of it at all. I thought that movie was pretty much perfect.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. Is the stuff with Pennywise was good and was perfectly adequate for what you expect from a horrific clown film, which he wasn't even the clown all the time. But they did some good stuff with it, but it wasn't about that. And that's the trick, is you have a movie that is elevated by all these other things so that you get a horror movie that is also a really, really great movie besides that.
Yeah. And I think Stephen King, you know, he's kind of known for having sort of unfilmable movies or unfilmable books or books that don't translate very well to screen, as many of his made-for-TV movies are, you know, like, I don't know, Tommyknockers. But I thought it seems like a movie or a book could be really hard to adapt, and they somehow got it right after, you know, I think many of us, I'm a massive Stephen King fan, of course, were really nervous about this movie coming out because they had like director changes and like rewrites and stuff like that. So I think a lot of us were really nervous it was going to be awful. So it was a big relief that it was amazing. And, you know, he just doesn't need another terrible movie based on his stuff.
What's funny is Stephen King, when he writes directly for the film, when he wrote an original screenplay, you get Sleepwalkers, which is just so not good.
Or the made-for-TV movie version of The Shining, starring, obviously, Steven Weber.
Yes.
It was awful.
And I wanted it to be like, so good. I really wanted that movie to be good. Stephen King
was like all about it for some reason.
Because he wanted to unassociate it with the director. Because the movie has always been seen as a Kubrick movie, not a Stephen King movie. Which is
True.
It was very early in King's recognition as being a Hollywood name as opposed to just a book name. But
yeah,
that's always going to be seen as Kubrick's film and really has nothing to do with Stephen King and was very different from his book. Because again, like you said, his books are usually unfilmable. But that's why when you see somebody who does it right, and what the other take back from it for me is that it reminds me so much of Stand By Me. With the way that the characters are together, the kids and everything. And that was a great movie, again, because it concentrated on the characters more than anything else. I think if you have solid characters, even in a lackluster story, it can elevate a film much higher than having great effects or a super scary creature. But the rest of the time, you hate everybody that's in the movie.
Yeah, and oh man, I mean, I like fell in love with all of the kid actors. Like, I generally kind of avoid movies that star kids because they're usually not good. I was like blown away by how good they were. I mean, I feel like there was a couple of the characters that weren't really used that much, but you know, the main couple of kids, I was just like, oh my God, I love this kid. Like the main kid, the girl was just like something about her, you know, she's going to be a big star.
Yeah.
And of course, Finn Wolfhard. I want to hug him.
Stole every scene. Stole every scene in that movie.
Yes. I'm so happy I found like you know, kid actors I actually like, because it makes that nostalgia, I guess, that much easier to feel.
Yep. All right, well, so we've turned this into a review of it. Let's
didn't want to stop you guys, but I feel like maybe we should rate Chopping Mall, which is
exactly where I'm saying we came to go back and rate Chopping Mall.
Okay.
We did away with the jerk off scale. I haven't found a new one, so I guess we're just gonna do a straight 0 to 5. What you thought of the movie and a justification of why you gave that. We'll go from there. Ariel, as our guest, you have to go first.
Okay, so you said 0 to 5?
Yep.
Yes. And we also accept half points.
Yep.
Okay, so am I rating this on a scale of all movies ever, or like this specific genre?
You're really getting a little too deep for us.
Well, I'm not going to compare it to like Shawshank Redemption, because then it'll be like a 0. But as far as like 80s horror movies go, I think for me personally, it ranks pretty highly just because it's got that perfect mixture of like cheesiness and like kind of like attempted suspense. Man, 0 to 5, probably
and definitely
2.
rated rate it as a horror movie, and your horror movie, when you're going for a horror film, where would this rank as to the choice that you would make to watch at that point in time?
Okay. It's like all movies ever. It's probably like 1.5 to 2. But if I'm basing it just like horror movies, and like if I'm looking at a huge selection of like all horror movies ever, what do I want to watch? Probably 2 to 2.5.
Yeah, if you take it back to like you're in the old VHS store and you're looking at the choices up there on the shelves, what do you want to take home that weekend? You know, what's going to be your 48-hour, and hopefully I don't have to pay an extra $1 because I didn't forget to rewind it, and I didn't keep it late, and they're charging me an extra week for the rental. Yeah, that's
higher, definitely, because I mean, that fucking cover art, it's great. I mean, obviously it's extremely misleading, but it was...
It's good.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go a little bit higher, just because this is, again, a kind of movie that I enjoy. I like stuff that doesn't take itself super seriously. It also gets points for me for the cameo portions of it, the blatant pandering to the audience of, if you're a person who likes cheesy horror movies, or if you're also a person who likes Corman films or just other weird flicks that you would watch on cable late night, this will hit a lot of marks for you, and it did for me. So I'm going to go as high as a 3.5.
Wow. Jeez.
Corey's always super nice about things.
I'm
not going to be anywhere near as nice. I thought it was a pretty decent 80s horror movie, but in terms of story, there's obviously a lot of holes. No pun intended, furniture king scene.
Okay.
Would I ever likely go back and watch this again without drinking? No. With drinking and the right group of people, potentially.
Yeah.
So you're going to say absolutely, because when are you not drinking?
When I go to work, I'm not drinking, Corey. Don't get me fired.
Work doesn't count.
Work doesn't count. I can't legally be drunk at work, so that time just doesn't count. I'm going to go with a 2 also, just because I'm an asshole.
No, 2 is reasonable. I am not discounting what you guys have chosen as your scores. I just, because of who I am, ranked it a little higher. That's how this works.
Yeah. I mean, I could always probably be convinced a little bit either way too, because it's all kind of subjective. It's just fun. And I've seen it, like, first time I saw it, I was like 28 or 29. I'm now 33 times. So obviously it's fun. I would definitely watch it again to like show it to somebody. You know, there's certain movies that like you watch a million times because you keep meeting somebody that's never seen it. And I think this could be one of those movies. Like, you know, someone doesn't, you know, watch a lot of horror movies. It's not a bad one to really like introduce them to like cheesy, weird movies from the 80s.
Yeah, and we're not a filmmakers or film experts review system. This show is a couple of guys who liked horror movies enough to talk about them and get together and have some fun making fun of them a little bit every week. But the way I look at it is, if I'm watching cable, it's 2:00 in the morning and I'm looking for something to watch, this is a movie that would show up in the listings and I go, oh, I can throw on Chopping Mall. Absolutely. You know, it's better than any of the infomercials. It's better than watching the reruns of Law and Order SVU or whatever that's on at this point. It's like, yeah, I will stop on Chopping Mall over most other things.
I can see that. Yep. You just put it on and it's like kind of background noise.
Yeah, it's a real person's ranking.
Yes. Hey, Corey, why don't you do what I bring you here for?
Publicly masturbate?
No, read the outro. Fucking weirdo.
Oh, the same thing. So you can contact us by leaving a voicemail at 805-328-3966. It's the same number as the first season, only you can use it because you didn't. You can email us at pot@gncast.com or leave us a message on our website. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at Podcast of Terror in all of those places, and you subscribe to us via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any of your favorite podcatchers. That's how we like to do it. We're here for you. All subscription options can be found at gncast.com/subscribe, and you can join our Facebook page, Podcast of Terror, or you can join the network's page, Galactic Network. Ariel, where can people find you? Where's the best place to find you and what you're doing right now?
Best place? Well, if you want to listen to my voice, probably iTunes or, whatever you use, Stitcher, Google Play. If you want to actually interact with me on the interwebs, probably Twitter at Murder the Sun. I'm pretty active on there. I don't love the social media, but it's definitely it's a really good way of interacting with your audience. So that's where I could probably be found the quickest and easiest.
And the name of your show is Murder Under the Midnight Sun?
That is correct.
And that is a good place for people to look for you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll have the links in the show notes too. So if you're
cool.
a fucking lazy human being, I'll take care of it for you. Corey, where can people find you?
You can find the comics that I help publish at donascomics.com.
And nothing else? You're not going to talk about your wife this week? Maybe you're the man that created your salsa?
Oh, so I'm wearing a t-shirt that is for a pretty shitty band that you probably never heard of called Drown the Lifeguard.
See that box back there?
Yeah.
That's a box full of those shirts.
I thought it was Human Head.
Nope. I have not put the shirts in the bin yet.
And the artwork on the shirt was actually designed by my wife. You can find her work at hag_attack on Instagram. She is blowing shit up right now with her art. She's actually going to do some appearances in Detroit at the end of next month. So I'm very excited for her. She's taking this stuff very seriously and doing a lot of stuff. Her episode of the Circus of Chaos was on again last night, so we got to see her be the featured artist of the week again. I just love it. I just loved seeing her and her success, because I know that she comes home and she draws every single day after a long work day on her days off, just from morning till night. It's a blast to see this happen for her.
That is exciting, yeah, because making it in a creative endeavor is fucking hard as shit.
That's why I went back to school. Playing drums in a shitty metal band doesn't quite pay the bills.
Neither does having an English and history degree.
Dude, our vocalist actually has an English degree, and he is the director of ticket operations for the big ass amphitheater outdoor music venue in Milwaukee. So nothing English related.
Yeah, obviously I do a lot of research, so that aspect is related, but I wouldn't say I make a good living doing the podcast. Maybe someday.
Yeah, as long as you're happy, that's what matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Untapped, because I'm an alcoholic, at Matt the Lifeguard. It's good to be back, guys. So next week we're going to be joined by creator of Unscripted, PJ Starks. We're going to be talking about a little movie from 2017 called The Monster Project. I'll have a link in the show notes for that movie if you haven't seen it yet. So that's going to do it for another episode of the podcast, Darren. We'll talk to you guys next week. Stay scared, everybody. God damn it. Corey, I totally hit stop. I'll have to put it in afterwards.
You have that ability.
That was fun, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming to hang out.
It was fun. Thank you very much for joining us and for the great movie suggestion.
Yeah, no, I fucking love horror movies, and I never get to talk about them because, I don't know, I don't know many people that love them as much as I do. So it's usually just me listening to podcasts that are talking about them. So it's nice to have actual interaction.
We have met some just incredible people doing this show, and from the horror community in particular, and even people who aren't big horror movie fans, but have just been kind enough to come on here and slum with us. It has been such an incredible time. But yeah, the community, when it comes to people who really love horror, the genre, the films and everything, is pretty amazing. Some of the people, like from our friends from HorrorGeekLife.com, Derek, who made the Kane Hodder film, the documentary about him. Just PJ, who we're having on next week, approached us probably because of the people from Horror Geek Life. Anthony Rouse, who's a filmmaker. It's so great. It is so fantastic, and it's so much fun to get to talk about this stuff with other people who are mega fans. And I'm not the mega fan. My wife is. My wife is the reason why I decided, Matt and my wife are why I wanted to do this show. I like horror films, but Matt was like not interested in talking about sci-fi stuff on our sci-fi network.
No, I got dragged into it.
Right.
And I was like, hey, Matt, you want to do a horror podcast? And my wife being proud of me is the other reason. So it's like, but I really love talking about this stuff, and I love the people that I get to talk about this stuff with and for the fans as well. It's so much fun.
No, I totally agree. I have actually been tossing around the idea of starting a horror podcast for like 6 months, but I just haven't really hit on the right formula yet. So maybe someday. Well,
if you ever want to come back for any reason, but certainly if you want to come back as a pitch for that podcast or whatever, you've got an invitation. We'd love to have you back.
I will definitely happily come back anytime.
Awesome. Well, I got to go take a wicked piss and go to sleep because I'm old.
Okay.
But yeah, what Corey said, obviously you're more than welcome to come back whenever you want. We usually wait about 6 weeks to 2 months before repeating guests, but
yeah, I have an insane amount of stuff going on right now, so that is good.
Okay. Yeah, we'll December or after the new year. We try and do all Christmas movies the month of December. So if you have a Christmas movie you have in mind, then we can come back.
Oh wait, I think you've already done my favorite Christmas one, Santa's Sleigh.
Corey always makes fun of me because of how much I love that movie.
Oh my god, it's so fucking awesome! It was a surprise. But yeah, I think that's probably my favorite themed horror movie. But what's that German one with all the
Krampus?
No, it's actually like in German. Or maybe what the hell is it called? I can't.
Rare.
I got nothing. Yes.
I've never even heard of this one.
It's a weird one.
I would do it.
Yeah. That you managed to stump us. That's perfect.
Yep.
It's funny because I'm a horror geek, but only compared to like normal people, because there are some horror nerds out there that are just like mind-blowing thing. I'm not at that level. So, because I just don't have the time to be at that level, but I think I know more than the average bear. But yeah, you should watch that movie.
Well, let's plan on having you back in December, and we'll do that movie.
Cool.
So we'll talk. I mean, I talk to you on and off, so it's not like I'll forget you exist. But
yeah,
we'll figure this out.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.